we press this button to consent.
Okay, letting everybody in right now. Thank you all for attending this webinar. I'm Chris. I'm from Powerhouse Arenas. From Powerhouse Arena, I'm the events director, and we're very proud to be hosting the launch for The One on Earth, selected works by Mark Baumer. And I'll share a link for the book to buy from Powerhouse, and it will ship in about 2 weeks. And right now I'll hand it over to Nick Slackman from Fence.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nick. I'm a digital editor at Fence and served as managing editor for this book, The One on Earth, the selected works of Mark Baumer. Thank you to Powerhouse on behalf of Fence for hosting this event. I'm incredibly excited to launch this book with all these incredible readers. And I wanted to thank Blake and Shane and Claire and Rebecca Wolf for all the work we've done on this book. Rebecca is here with me right now. For all of the work on this collecting Mark's Baumer's work. This is incredibly exciting, and thank you all for coming here to read, and thank you to Ottessa and Jonathan for coming as well. Yeah, the book will be out around next month on the 22nd, and without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Blake to host this event, and thank you all so much for coming out.
Cool, thank you, Nick. Thanks also to everyone involved, as Nick said, and Powerhouse, thank you for this. I'd also like to especially thank Fence. As I was thinking about the time, I mean, we've been working on this for a while, but Mark's spirit has been around. I don't know, I think about him every day still, and I'm really glad that we have the opportunity to present his work in this fashion, because he's such a bizarre writer, sentence by sentence, but also as just like what he was doing so much, and I think that this book reflects that. So you'll find, you know, I don't know, I don't want to spend a long time talking about Mark before I read this piece, but I do want to say that, like, Mark embodies for me something that I don't know where it exists anymore, and I'm sure it does, but just this DIY spirit of, like, I'm going to make things and then I'm going to figure out what to do with them. And then I'm going to start to think about what it does to the world when I do that. And so when I met Mark, he was like threatening me via email that he was going to come to my house because I got in an argument with his buddy who edited a website. And then by the end, you know, he's obviously walking across the country in protest of climate change, and also to just like protest American life as the way I see it. He talks a lot of shit about Americans. He talks a lot of shit about the way people think or don't think. And he's an important bridge between two worlds for me. They call people a writer's writer, but I almost think Mark's just like a person's person or something. He lived it. So I don't know. I hope you'll pick up this book and see all the different things, because I don't know. I've read his stuff. I've read Mark's stuff aloud before, both to strangers and to friends. Strangers seem to come away thinking, how did this get published? What is this? Which is what you should think. And that's what publishing should do almost, I think. But anyway, I'm not going to start babbling about it. I just want to say I'm really proud of getting, I'm really thankful to get to work on this with these people and with Fence, who has always been the proponent of these kinds of voices. And I don't know, there's a lot more yet to be done with Mark's legacy, I believe. And so this book is the beginning of that. Anyway, I'm going to read, I was going to read something else, but I decided to read something a little more edgy from Mark, because, you know, a lot of his most visible stuff was his like political and climate oriented work. But I remember Mark as just like, you never knew what the hell he was going to do next, like in not in a dangerous way, just in a like performance way, but he wasn't performing, he just lived it. So this piece to me reflects, like, this came from a website that we created to just like let people who post at will what they wanted if we thought they did good things. And Mark posted this piece called Killing, Deathing, Bombing. And it was on a site called Dark Fucking Wizard. A friend called last night to see if I wanted to help him kill, death, bomb ISIS. I had never killed, death, bombed anything, but I was bored, so I said, okay. Supposedly there was an ISIS house at the edge of town. I was a little nervous because in general, I'm against killing, deathing, bombing things, but there's nothing more dangerous than a bored capitalist. And last night I accidentally became so bored, I was dangerous to the rest of the world. Still, as we walked toward the ISIS house, I was like, maybe we shouldn't literally kill, death, bomb ISIS. Like, can't we metaphorically kill, death, bomb them or something? My friend laughed and said, dude, relax. I got one of those machines that does all the killing, deathing, bombing for you. He was holding up some sort of weird looking kill, death, bomb machine. Felt pretty good knowing we could kill, death, bomb ISIS without actually doing any killing, deathing, bombing ourselves. Anyway, the ISIS house was right at the edge of town where you would expect to find ISIS houses. It even had a giant sign on the front that said ISIS. My friend thought this was funny. He kept saying, oh my God, ISIS is so dumb, as he set up the death, kill, bomb toy. I noticed there was only one button in the middle of the death, kill, bomb device. After my friend pressed the button, we ran in the opposite direction as the death, kill, bomb machine went into the ISIS house and began to death, kill, bomb all the ISIS people in the house. I imagined my friend and I getting a medal. I actually didn't feel too bad to thoughtlessly kill strangers. I began to understand why everyone loves war so much. Through the window, I saw this really big ISIS guy get killed. I think my friend yelled, yeah, dude. The death, kill, bomb device was really efficient. It death, killed, bombed so many ISIS people, I began to wonder if there were any ISIS people left in the world. When everything in the ISIS house was dead, my friend held up his hand and said, slap it. I slapped it really good and said, cool, let's go home and eat some of those standard American foods, standard American diet foods, sad. But my friend was like, I don't think the death, kill, bomb machine is done. I told him to turn it off because the ISIS seemed dead. My friend laughed and said there was no off button. There was only an on button. I looked back at the death, bomb, kill machine. It had moved onto the house next to the ISIS house and was killing everyone in that house. I began yelling, but my friend pointed at the sign in the house. It said ISIS family members. And for a second, I was like, oh, that makes sense. But then I got worried my parents might be in there before I remember I'm their only child and I'm not ISIS. So the death, bomb, kill machine, death, bomb, killed all the ISIS relatives. And I got excited because I thought we were done, but my friend pointed at the next house, which had a sign on the outside that said ISIS babies. It's then that I realized that the death, kill, bomb machine would never get turned off. I began to cry, but they're just babies. My friend was like, no, they're ISIS babies. I asked him what an ISIS baby was. He said, it's any baby that could grow up to be ISIS. It seemed like literally every baby was capable of growing up to be an ISIS baby, but I didn't say anything. My friend laughed. I got a little nauseous as I looked at the other houses on the street. There was one full of all the teachers who had ever taught an ISIS, and the house for any doctor who had ever healed an ISIS, and one for any person who had ever talked to an ISIS. The last house was for anyone who had ever paid taxes and somehow indirectly funded the weapons ISIS eventually used. It took me a few seconds before I realized this was my house. I thought, oh, damn, and was about to kill, death, bomb myself when I realized the death, bomb, kill machine in the ISIS baby house was making weird noises. I ran inside. The house was literally filled with every baby currently alive and dead in the world. Baby blood and shit was smeared all over the death, kill, bomb machine. The babies still not dead yet didn't seem to understand what was going on, and the dead ones were dead, so they didn't understand either. One dead baby was looking at me in the eye and seemed to be saying, I'm not ISIS. And I was like, I know. But my friend was like, technically, it's impossible to know anything. And then added, it's better to just kill the babies to be safe because that's the only way you know for sure they won't turn into ISIS. At this point, I was like, dude, you need to stop or I'm going to unfriend you on Facebook. And my friend was all like, all friends matter. And I was going to unfriend him right there, but I noticed the death kill bomb machine was making that hollow sound I sometimes make when I'm in the grocery store and I'm hungry, but don't know what I want to eat. When I looked over, I realized it had mutated into this weird new shape under all the baby blood. There was a strange tattoo on the middle of the device. The tattoo said ISIS. I began to yell and point, but the device did not kill itself. Instead, it just laughed until the tattoo fell off. The noises I was making were a cross between choking and murmuring. The death kill bomb machine continued killing babies. It did not stop until all the babies were a pile of babies, shits, bloods, kills, deaths, bombs. All right, happy one. That's Killing, Deathing, Bombing by Mark. I won't say anything else now. We'll have some questions. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them if we have time. Moving on, we're gonna have now, we're gonna have obviously 4 readers. It'll be Claire up next. Claire wrote the introduction to this on a, I asked her, I don't know how she wrote it so fast, and it's the perfect introduction. So you'll hear from that. And here's Claire.
Thank you, Blake. It's been meaningful and surreal to collaborate on this book, and I'm grateful for having had the opportunity to write the introduction. Before I start, I'd like to share a quote via Raul Zurita as translated by Daniel Borzutsky. It's from an interview in the Harriet. Zurita says, quote, "The apocalypse is not when the world ends, it's when one single person is killed. The entire universe becomes deformed when one single person is tortured." I want to acknowledge that 1 year ago today, George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis by Derek Chauvin. Floyd's death also took place at the hand of a racist, fraternal culture that allows men like Chauvin to spend their lives assuming zero responsibility or accountability for their pain, which they subsequently inflict onto others. On the day of his conviction, I thought about how Derek Chauvin's name translates to jingoistic people ruler. It is linked to chauvinism, aggressive patriotism, excessive loyalty to one's own group. The violent hierarchies to which we bear witness each day are embedded in names and in language. We become what languages us, and language contains bones. Mark's work closely excavates language in a way that allows readers to imagine radical new ways of being in the world. Thematically, his late writing dealt with climate crisis, which is inherently linked to the ways we take and push and mine and drill into one another, to quote the collective winter count. Mark also wrote about white rage, megalomania, and inequities of access. The excerpt from my foreword, from which I'll now read, further explores these themes. Those unfamiliar with Mark may assume his writing lends itself to a deceptively bizarre read. On first encounter, one might think Mark's work is weird for the sake of being weird, when in fact its weirdness and sentient weirdening is entangled with other weirdnesses. The weirdness of linguistically manipulative advertising and propaganda, the weirdness of the human brain's non sequiturs, the weirdness of human beings thinking thoughts all of the time, ergo we cannot know anyone's mind. The alienation of daily objects, events, and serendipities that are just a little bit off, and how these objects, events, and serendipities don't quite belong either in the world or in the realm of language. Not to mention the weirdness of attempting to wield language that bears socioculturally approved sense when lived experience is myriad, ineffable, synesthetic, senseless. Mark's shorter prose pieces often read like fables, containing moral lessons geared toward CEOs, grown men with anger problems, megalomaniacs, and white supremacists. Critics sometimes describe Mark's writing as childlike, which feels apt and aligned with our world's political landscape. Children are, after all, leading the global climate movement, and the bulk of our nation's leaders fail to lead at all because their souls are possessed by unprocessed inner children. Mark was an only child whose writing is full of rage and sadness, but not grief per se. Rather, his work is often euphoric, seriously playful, ecstatically joyful, egoless, a manic response to the pain of being alive in a world where everything is dying in front of our eyes. Along with excerpts from his travel journals, I Am a Road and the Barefoot Across America blog, a novella at some point in the last 9 billion years, and Yachts, a short story about a penis that abandons its 7-week-old infant body to tour South America and study post-colonial theory. The One on Earth contains Mark's personal statements for Brown University's MFA Literary Arts program. Quote, "Dear Brown, it is important to know that I am not a joke. Instead of doing cocaine, I have worked the last 2 years on my writing. I have started 4 novels and tossed them away, and when they were done, I feel like failure is a big part of my writing." And also the Stegner Fellowship at Stanford University, quote, "It is difficult for me to know what the fall of 2017 will bring. Maybe I will have a child at this point, or maybe I will begin coaching middle school track." The collection also includes cover letters addressed to future employers. Quote, "Would you be more or less likely to hire me if I told you one of my teeth is probably going to fall out unless I got dental coverage?" Prose miniatures about the Brown University MFA Literary Arts program, a Tinder bio set in couplets entitled "Not Ted Cruz," stock tips for unpublished authors trying to get rich, a fairy tale about Jonathan Franzen's leg falling off, some facts about a self-immolating web content specialist, multi-step writing prompts, and poems rejected from A Public Space, Boston Review, and the Beloit Poetry Journal. Apart from an aforementioned genealogy I offer earlier in the foreword, where I constellate Mark with writers and thinkers and artists, including Thich Nhat Hanh, Pee Wee Herman, Andy Kaufman, Greta Thunberg, Simone Weil, and Bastian Otter, parts of his writing feel like a Frederick Wiseman documentary narrated by Werner Herzog. Parts feel like Daniel Harms walking around Walmart after midnight. Parts feel like Yorgos Lanthimos being commissioned to write a little golden book, and parts feel like Lydia Davis thumb wrestling Donald Barthelme on Vine at TGI Fridays. Maybe Mark's writing is absurd, a word so overused to describe literary and all really art that it's been neutralized. Or maybe what's actually absurd is the formality and desperation with which we prostrate ourselves before institutions, faux democratic corporate apps, celebrities, and CEOs, plus all of our big and little addictions. From alcohol and drugs to sex and love, from social media dopamine hits to performance-enhanced sports, and the ways we throw our money at each other. Maybe what's also absurd is that there exist famous writers whose famous books are written on famous computers made by a corporation named after a piece of fruit, symbolizing original sin. And although I can't find a clear answer online about where these famous computers are grown, I often think about the time Mark stood in the Providence Place Mall's Apple store holding a sign that read "Silent Hunger Protest," and also about how the only article Mark ever wrote for his undergraduate college's newspaper almost got him expelled. So he started a zine called GMBO. That zine was an act of journalism, of revolt, of participation in political community. It was, like the writing in this volume, an act of refusal. And I am thinking now about how refuse can become compost and how compost can yield fruit. And also of the late poet C.D. Wright, who would have turned 71 today, January 6th, 2020. Before her death, C.D. called Mark an angel sent to earth to protect us. She also wrote, quote, "We must do something with our time on this small aleatory sphere for motives other than money. Power is not an acceptable surrogate. The irony and grace of the one on earth is that it won a prize." Thank you.
Unmute. I found the unmute. Okay. Great, man. Thank you, Claire. It was really nice to hear you read that. I don't even know what to say about it. Shane Jones is going to read next. His most recent book is Vincent and Alice from New York Tyrant. He's living in New York. He lives in New York, don't you?
I'm somewhere in New York State. Yes.
Yes. Go for it, Shane.
Thanks, Blake.
Sorry.
Claire's intro kind of covers everything and anything I could say better critically. I'm obsessed with that intro. Two things I'll say personally about Mark. I don't want to say too much, like Blake said as well. One was, I remember going to Mark's class to read, and when I went into the class, everybody was singing me happy birthday, which was amazing and weird and strangely touching. And secondly, I remember posting online somewhere that I wanted a Murakami Sucks t-shirt, and about a week later, a double XL like Hanes Beefy Tea t-shirt with Murakami Sucks and black Sharpie scrawled across it arrived in the mail. And both of those things I think about a lot when I think about Mark. And then just thirdly, real quick, when Blake and I were putting this book together, shortly before it, we were talking about Mark, and there's just so many adjectives you can use for him. I mean, positive and negative, and it's just amazing that this individual existed and did what he did. And at one point, I think it was Blake that said, like, man, like, who was that guy? And it was almost like describing like a flash of light through like the sludge of something. And like it just kept going, like you just couldn't believe it came through. And I'm thrilled that this book is out. Thank you to Fence and Rebecca. And then I also wanted to give a special thanks to Nick at Fence, who did an immense amount of work on this book. And thank you, Nick. So I'm going to read one of my favorite pieces from Mark's work. It's called "This Great Story Begins with Someone Eating a Salad." Doug was in the kitchen eating a salad. It was 2 a.m. I had gone into the kitchen to get a drink of water. When I asked Doug what he was doing, he looked at his salad and said, "Eating." I had not seen Doug in almost 2 years. He had never been much of a salad eater. The last time I saw him was at our son's funeral. I had almost forgotten one of my children was dead. Well, that's not entirely true. A dead child will always be a memory. Doug was using a spoon to eat his salad. This made sense. It was the sort of thing Doug would do. I tried to remember if all the forks were dirty. It didn't matter. Doug put a vegetable in his mouth, chewed, swallowed, and said something about drinking. I was thinking about something else, so I don't know if he said he had started or stopped drinking again. The salad bowl seemed larger than any of the bowls I owned, and it was yellow. I wouldn't normally own a yellow salad bowl. I was going to ask Doug where he found the bowl, but he began talking before I had a chance to talk. And as usual, whenever Doug decided to talk instead of letting me talk, he talked about all things I didn't want to talk about. Something about a war. I still was focused on the bowl, so I didn't quite catch whether we were starting a new war or not ending an old war. Doug seemed to notice I wasn't paying attention because he stopped talking about war. It's weird when two people have a lot to talk about, but they end up not talking. Maybe Doug only came back to eat salad and not talk. I thought about yelling. It made my insides feel good as I imagined breaking the salad bowl and saying something like, "You think you can just walk back into my life and eat salad?" Then Doug would say, "Fine, I won't eat salad ever again." And that's when I would scream, "It's never been about salad." A commercial break would follow. The commercial would either be advertising trucks or meat. When I finally stopped fantasizing about theoretical conversations, Doug and I were watching bad television. I was still thirsty. I had not done what I had gone to the kitchen to do. Most likely the salad bowl was half eaten on the counter. I don't quite understand how people can manage to eat only half a salad. As the bad television continued, I thought of all the uneaten salad in the world. It seemed like there is a lot of it floating around. There's probably enough uneaten salad out there right now to feed the entire universe for at least a month. In other news, bad television sure seems to take a long time. Everything about it feels very confusing. I don't even remember turning on the television, but it seems fitting Doug would show up randomly one night and the evening would end with us watching bad television. As I continued to watch bad television, I tried to figure out if I was male or female. I'm pretty sure I hadn't decided yet. Usually most people have decided by now, but it seemed okay. Worrying about uneaten salad seems more important than deciding what gender I am. When the bad television ended, Doug and I went back into the kitchen. One of my holes was glowing, but Doug didn't notice. I couldn't tell if the glowing was good or bad, but maybe I'm not qualified to judge. Instead, maybe my only duty is to recognize my glowing hole. An unsubstantiated amount of time passed. At this point, my narration has been so unreliable, it wouldn't matter if I had given a specific length of time. All that matters is the glowing continued. I don't know where Doug went. Another one of our children died. Maybe Doug was at the funeral. I decided not to attend because it's not like anything matters once a hole on your body starts glowing. It was glowing so good. I thought I might be able to make something to replace the new dead child. But when I tried to make a replacement child, the hole just glowed more and more until it couldn't glow anymore. So I returned to the kitchen for a drink of water. Doug was gone. He was really gone for maybe the last time. The extremely large yellow bowl was also gone, but the half-eaten salad was not gone. It was half on the counter. Some was streaked down a cabinet. The rest was on the linoleum. So I began to lick the salad off the cabinet. I wasn't sure if it was safe to eat from the linoleum, but I did it. Someone was watching bad television in the other room. I ignored the bad television and began working on the last of the salad on the countertop. Mostly, it tasted like old salad, but a little bit of it tasted like Doug. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. That was great. I love the tone of that. I love how calm, how much you can do with such calm. You know, it's a funny contrast to the piece I read that's so violent and insane, but both have that energy that seems indescribable to me. There's some interesting pieces in this collection too that comes from Mark's teaching. I almost feel like taking this webinar that we're in and like going outside with my computer and like talking to people and like interviewing people or whatever. I know Mark, if he were having a book launch, would destroy this format. He finds a way to destroy any format, which is a great thing about an artist. And one thing that's kept me tided over, I guess, in the time of you know, you miss someone, you find ways to reconnect to them. Mark's YouTube is like a encyclopedia of him. Go to Mark's YouTube. Don't forget about that. There's so many, there's like hundreds of videos, there's hours of content. We started watching it from the first video where he's like first year of college up to the end, you know. We're gonna watch them in order. I recommend doing that. It would be fun to maybe build some digital stuff around this eventually if people are interested in that, because I think there's just so much of Mark. You can't fit all of Mark into a book. Anyway, I'm trying to keep this short in my mind, but I could talk forever about Mark. I'm very happy at the same time that our next speaker, Jonathan Lethem, is going to read from, I believe, another collected or a novella or a novel. I can't remember what Mark called it. But Jonathan's newest book is The Arrest, and I'm looking forward to hearing you talk. Jonathan.
Thanks, Blake. Yeah, so I'm going to read from Meow, which is the first book I saw of Mark's, and it thrilled me immediately. And I've been kind of cherishing it ever since. I don't know if I can do justice to these amazing sequences from it in out loud, but I've at least had practice, because it's the nature of this work that I find whenever there's anyone in the room with me and I pick it up, I start laughing and I get excited and demand that they listen to me read from it a bit. So this is not the first time I've read aloud from Meow. It might be a couple of dozen times already. Anyway, here goes. Wish me luck. An old person went back to school to learn how to be a twig. It cost $400,000 to learn how to be a twig. The old person believed his life would be better if he learned how to be a twig. On the first day of class, after the professor collected all the money, he told everyone to practice being a twig. None of the people in the class had ever been a twig. They all looked at the professor until the professor made a hand motion that seemed to say, "Get on with it." One person in the class made an awkward attempt at being a twig. For the rest of their time at the twig school, everyone tried to copy this attempt. A 23-year-old man named Roger watched a 68-year-old man kill himself. The 68-year-old man had decided to kill himself because he could not swallow a piece of medicine without the assistance of a trained specialist. After Roger watched the 68-year-old man kill himself, he vowed that he would also kill himself if he ever got so old that he couldn't do things on his own. Time passed. Roger eventually became a 57-year-old man. He began having trouble using his own eyeballs. One of them got swollen and the other one only recognized the color yellow. Roger realized it was time to kill himself, but when he tried to do it, he ended up crying instead. So Roger continued living until he died the regular kind of death that most people die from when they die from not killing themselves. It was puppy night at the ballpark. Fans were encouraged to bring puppies, but were not allowed to bring regular dogs. Only puppies were allowed. In honor of puppy night at the ballpark, the home team trained a puppy to play second base. It hit a home run, but it struggled to make any plays in the field. The home team almost lost by 30 runs. My dad didn't own any puppies, so he dressed me up like a puppy. I was very bad at doing puppy impressions. We were not allowed inside the ballpark. Around the bottom of the ninth, with the home team still trailing by a wide margin, my father and I found a tunnel we thought would lead us into the ballpark, but it ended up leading us deep into the largest wound ever suffered by a human being on a nationally broadcast syndicated television program. A lot of people yelled at their televisions and told us not to crawl deeper into the wound, but we could not hear them, and we continued to crawl deeper and deeper, the whole time thinking we were getting closer to our goal of reaching the inside of the ballpark, where the home team was attempting to make a historic comeback, which would ultimately fall a half a run short. The first sentence in this story was better than the rest of the sentences in this story because none of the characters introduced after the first sentence had any redeeming qualities, and the developing plot had no structure. Plus, the grammatical syntax struggled to maintain its composure beyond the opening line, and sometimes it even hurt my teeth to read the other sentences out loud. People who bought this book because they liked the first sentence were disappointed when they got home and found all the other sentences weren't good at being sentences. Most of the reviews of the book said the author was disappointed with his own life, which was why he struggled to maintain the emotional intensity he developed in the opening line. One interesting book review said the author had not felt joy in almost 3,000 years. I began to doubt if I would ever write another good sentence ever again. I worried people would remember me as the guy who only wrote one good sentence. Ideally, multiple biographies would be written about my one good sentence and how I never lived up to the overwhelming genius I wasted by only writing one good sentence. Whispers and accusations of drug use and large sexual parties began to circulate. None of these rumors were technically accurate, but a 13-year-old high school dropout made a documentary using his dad's video camera, which revealed that my highly touted first sentence wasn't even really that good. This movie went on to win a lot of prestigious awards. The year ended with my agent selling a dirty syringe on the internet, which he said I used to smoke heroin. The judge who bought the syringe made me go to rehab. This consisted of a bunch of celebrity drug addicts building a large human-sized anthill in the desert. When I got out of rehab, my agent told me I had to give up writing, and I ended up working as an actor in a bunch of made-for-television movies about writers who once wrote books everyone loved, but ultimately how these writers had to kill themselves because they forgot how to write books people loved. Everyone seemed impressed at how good I was at pretending to be a depressed author. But the television networks stopped making these types of movies after the most famous newspaper in the world wrote an article about the rise of suicide among middle school poetry slam contestants. My agent was eventually able to find me a job at a normal cubicle place. Every night after work, I would come home and make a tray of lasagna. Sometimes I would eat the lasagna, but most of the time I would smear it on my bed and then lay on my bed until it was time to go back to work. My bed turned into a large crusted pile of uneaten lasagna. During this particularly emotionally dark period of my life, my mother became worried about my mental sanity. She sent me emails that were loving, but mostly nonsensical. One time she sent me an email that said only, "You," it's just the letter U, in quote marks. She sent me an email that said only, "You." I think she meant to write, "Hi, it's your mom. I was just thinking about that sentence you once wrote and how everyone really liked it. Maybe you could write a sequel to that sentence and then everyone would really like you again." I began working on a book tentatively called "The Book I Wrote That Made Everyone Like Me Again." It took me a long time to write this book, maybe like 3 or 4 hours. When I was finished, I posted it on my secret internet account. No one knew the secret internet account existed. Then I waited for people to start liking me again. Last one. I am wood brain, we not brain. On cliff, I thank brain. Wood brain see free brain coat. Are brain wet? Wood brain pray. Thank you, brain coat. I thank free brain. Should I trade brain or are the brain stem wet? The brain hair are wood, they are not rocks. Man brain are free with teen breath. They knew brain wood. Teen breath, spill brain. You are a brain scam. They knew brain flow, not free. The brain flow man, spill brain hair on brain wood. I should trade brain. Thank you, wet brain. The hair pray. On brain stem, we thank wood hair. The wood brain knew queer teen. Thank you, spouse brain. Man see free brain on prey stem. Should hair trade brain cliff? I'm gonna inflect that differently. Should hair trade brain, Cliff? I pray am not man brain. Thank you, Woodrock. That's it, thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was really wonderful. I love Mew. I love the way you read those two. Captured his inflection. I read Puppy Night at the Ballpark one time at a party full of PhD students, and I got into 3 different arguments that night about why is that a book? Why was that published? What is this? You know, and it was like, anyone that can make people ask that question, I think, is doing something right. So thank you very much for reading those. It was nice to hear and laugh.
Thanks, Blake, for pulling me into this, and Claire. Thanks, all of you.
Absolutely. I thought of some things I wanted to say, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to move forward, and maybe we can have a conversation after if people want to. I'd love to talk about Mark and his sense of humor and how he writes the way he did. I don't know. I don't know how to ask that question. We can do that if we want to. The last reader that we will have tonight of Mark's work is Ottessa Moshfegh, whose most recent book is Death in Her Hands. And I'm excited to hear her read, I believe, an excerpt of a longer story. I'm not positive if that's what she's reading, but here she is. Thank you.
Thanks, Blake. Hi, everybody. I wanted to, okay, well, I guess maybe I should tell you first, amongst some of the other people here, I've seen you guys and the participants, I went to Brown with Mark for grad school in 2009 to 2011. And one of the first stories that he brought to workshop, which was with John Edgar Wideman in our first year, was this story called Yachts. And I found it in my emails, and this is how he presented it. And then it opened with this. If you can read it, it says, "My dick owns a yacht," attributed to Anonymous. Mark was really funny, and not in a way that would like make me laugh out loud, really, personally speaking, but in a way that would make me have to like think twice about what he'd just said, and then have like my own joy about it. He told one, I think actually the moment I realized I loved Mark was at this party early on in grad school. And I think I kind of like gravitated to him in that awkward social situation because I was like the one other person there not drinking alcohol. And it was like, this is a safe zone for me as like a newly sober person. And I heard him be introduced to someone, and someone said, "Hi, I'm David." And Mark said, "Oh, are you related to David Duchovny?" And the guy was like really offended. I thought it was hilarious. Anyway, so Yachts. I thought that I would read a little bit, and I know we don't have that much time, but I would read a little bit from this first draft that we got in 2009 when we were in class together. I really like this early draft. "When I was 7 weeks old, my dick took off for South America, leaving nothing but a brief note. I'll be in that shit. Remember Pinochet? Yeah, him. He was cool, right? Okay, bye. I took a pair of your dad's sneakers." At first, my parents were worried. They asked the doctors, "Does he need it?" The doctors ignored these questions and tried to remember if they'd ever been to South America. "Is that the one with the canal, the orange groves, the fading cherry leaves, strict polar bear regulations, the toilets that rotate backwards?" The day after my dick left, my dad was rummaging through the entryway closet. "I guess I can wear these boots for now, or these slippers." He really should have taken your shoes, he being the dick. He's your dick. I wore those sneakers the last time I played high school basketball. Then your mom and I went to the prom. Then we made bad decisions. I didn't take them off until after you were born. I kept thinking this might be the day I'm asked to play professionally. Now I'll never make it. These boots, they're too gentlemanly. People will laugh. I feel feminine. A few hours later, my father found a half-empty box of baking soda in his attaché case. Inside the baking soda was an envelope. In the envelope was a newspaper article. My father said, I decided to open my attaché case because I plan to start making business decisions tomorrow. My mother didn't say anything. She worried her open mouth would send him running. She tried to give him looks of sympathy. They were half successful. My father ignored the unsuccessful halves and read the newspaper article. It was broken into 3 parts. The first part said, there is supposedly a 100,000-year-old Jesus hiding at the end of deepest river in South America. The second part said, when your grandfather was in the Navy, he jumped off a submarine and swam to the bottom. The third part said, when he resurfaced, he found bags of postcards addressing him as my beloved lunkhead. A week later, we got a postcard from my dick. I have either bought a 100,000-year-old native or 100,000 natives. My translating skills aren't as strong as I thought. A few days later, we received a picture of 1,000 natives sailing my dick, sailing through South America. Later, my father found another newspaper article, this time wrapped up in a Band-Aid, inside his toiletry case, inside the medicine cabinet, inside his suitcase. My mother still hadn't opened her mouth, but her looks of sympathy said, you were going to leave and take the medicine cabinet? My father said, there's a conference in Morocco, a ranked official in the Russian embassy, a seminar on business decisions. It would have taken too long to pack everything individually for our honeymoon. 11 months ago, you opened your mouth very wide and laughed when I wouldn't take off my basketball sneakers. A recession is looming. The bank called. The leaves are dripping off the trees faster than I remember. I'm no longer younger than my father was. I've stopped making payments on the refrigerator. At least yawn or something. The newspaper article said, 90% of all the natives in South America have died. They have been stuffed in barrels and mailed to General Mills. General Mills is a company that markets a wide variety of food products to the world. Sometimes when I'm hungry, I think General Mills, and then I'm not hungry anymore. They invented a yogurt you could put in your pocket. They also manufacture cardboard boxes titled Hamburger Helper Beef Fried Rice. I think 12% of the barrels sent to General Mills were turned into boxes titled Chicken Helper Cheesy Enchilada. The rest of the deceased natives in barrels were used to create 3 units of Cheerios. My dick returned the next day. So I'll stop there. I mean, just to give you all an idea of how he ended up publishing the piece. It begins in the book, Yachts. At breakfast, before he ate his single slice of dry toast, my father would sometimes try to pray, but more often he turned to talk to his reflection in the chrome toaster. One morning, I heard him ask his own reflection if I would grow into anything more than an ugly prince. When he talked about me, my childhood, and my lack of genitalia, he struggled to say the words. I was 7 weeks old and my dick had left for South America. At the time, my young brain could not understand this. My dick did not say or wave goodbye. The morning after he left, I found a scrap of yellow legal pad taped to my groin. It read, I want to be a dictator. I want it all. A figure shouting, ordering the unarmed shot dead, and it felt like my dick was responsible for every atrocity in the modern world. So yeah, I really encourage everybody to read this book, which is an amazing collection. And thinking like when someone leaves the planet, or at least seems to, like what is there left? And like what's so cool is that Mark left so much, like so much. I don't know how, if he was precious about it all. And we get to have these little pieces of him, and he lives on in his in his art. So I'm really honored to have known him and seen him sort of develop this, which I think is pretty profound. Okay, so that's going to be it from me.
Thank you, Ottessa. Wow, that was I loved hearing the other version of that story. It's so nuts. I can't tell you how many. I probably read 3 or 4 different versions of Yachts in different places, and that was one challenge with this thing. Is like now there was boots walking in America, and CEOs and yachts were probably, there are like endless iterations of that. I don't know. I mean, like thousands and thousands of versions, or thousands of different words in each version, sort of. That was really cool. Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, great variety of styles. Thank you to everyone for reading the different, I don't know. I feel like there's
Thank you, Blake, for hosting.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do. You did a great job.
It's not, I don't think I've ever hosted a computer-based meeting.
Well,
So
I can't imagine what Mark would think about all this. Like, he would find it strange and beautiful and absurd, but he would love it too. Hi, Rebecca.
Oh, muted. Thank you all so much. This has been very beautiful, and I'm very happy to be part of this project. And I wish that I had met Mark more than the one time that I met him when he came through Hudson, New York to do a reading, which was an extraordinary reading. And you know, basically, I'm just very honored to have been able to publish this book. So thank you.
Nice.
thank you, Rebecca. I guess we can open up if anyone has any questions, or if they want to share memory, if anyone has anything they want mentioned, or I don't know what to do from here. We could say some more, or we could go about our merry way. Anybody? Claire, should we call somebody's agent?
Should we call? I think your agent's here, right?
I think Bill Clegg was in here at some point.
Bill
I know
Clegg.
that there's a Bill Clegg video of Mark calling Bill.
Would Bill like to answer our question?
Maybe we should all call all the agents, calling all agents.
Yeah.
A tangent for the agents.
I remember one call your agent where it was really long. It was like 12 minutes long, and towards the end of it, like the voicemail clicks in and says like your time is up, and then Mark starts talking about how he wanted like endless time because he would call, or his grandmother would call him and leave like voicemails saying how much she missed his grandfather, and she only had 3 minutes. And like, as Mark's recording this, he just starts crying and he like breaks down. It's like, it's such an absurd thing. Like, he's yelling at agents, and like some of them are even difficult to watch, but like there's this really intense moment. It's just like an intimate moment. And then he kind of laughs and he's like, well, I did that. I cried leaving a voicemail for an agent. That's the end of the video. And I think it was to Sylvia Molnar, who wasn't really happy about it, but I encourage everybody, Blake had kind of mentioned this earlier, to look up some of Mark's work online, his YouTube channel, and just go through it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, if there are no questions, I guess we can say goodbye. And yeah, I don't know. Hopefully everyone will pick this up and we can have we'll have some more events around Mark because it's just fun. It's just, I don't want to do any readings where I read anything other than Mark's stuff. It's too much fun to read his stuff. So please look for his stuff and check this book out because it's I don't know what it is. I don't know. I can't speak.
And also donate to the Fang Collective, for which Mark was raising money on his walk. They were doing a lot of anti-fracking work at the time, and of late have been doing anti-ICE work with their funds. So if you Google the Fang Collective, you'll find their site.
There's also the Mark Baumer Sustainability Fund that his family is continuing to run as a climate work fund.
And additionally, I see Julie Sokol is here. Her documentary Barefoot came out last year, which follows Mark's walk across America from coast to coast. Or well, I mean, it would have been a coast to coast walk, but obviously he was murdered during that. But amazing documentary. It's available streaming. I don't know, Julie, if you could send them a link in the chat, because if you haven't seen it yet, it's must watch. It's made as a collage of Mark's video work and his and people talking about him. So that's another great complimentary piece, or more than a complimentary piece. But yeah, so there's that. Someone will drop the link. You can Google Barefoot Mark Baumer. Yeah. All right. Well, thank everyone for coming. Thank you to Powerhouse for having us. Thank you to Fence for making this all happen, and Jonathan, Ottessa, Shane, and Claire. And good night. We'll see you guys out in the streets sometime.
Hi, guys.
Thank you all so much. Bye.
Thank you.